Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
And good evening to you. Welcome to our online edition of Nightly News. As you're probably all aware, the reason we're not on the 7 Tasmania channel, a mass internet outage has rendered it impossible for us to broadcast normally. The unprecedented disruption occurred this morning, with many Tasmanians unable to receive mobile reception or use the internet. For more, our reporter Elizabeth O'Neill joins us. Lizzie, how did this happen?
Good evening, Kim. There are two main cables between the mainland and Tasmania providing us with internet. Concerningly, both of these cables were cut by a third party. This is affecting everything from ATMs, phones, e-scooters and pretty much everything that needs an internet connection. Many businesses have struggled to operate with EFTPOS and other online forms of payment down. The Department of Health says its services are continuing. A smaller link is available but is being used for priority traffic, such as calls to 000. Telstra currently has crews at its Victorian and Burnie sites working to repair the cables and bring traffic back online. The outage is being described as one of the worst to impact the state.
I can't recall the last time there's been a dropout of this scale in Tasmania. When Basslink did have its power problems and then was cut to be fixed 5 or 6 years ago, that dropped out a fair amount of ISPs in Tasmania, but didn't affect phone calls for other providers and didn't affect banking services in a wide-scale way.
Internet in certain areas was restored around 5:30 this afternoon, but suffice to say it has been a frustrating time for many not being able to use the technology they've become so used to, Kim.
Okay, thank you very much, Lizzie. Well, Tasmania has played its AFL trump card, a 27,000-seat stadium in Hobart with a retractable roof, in return for an AFL side. Dubbed the Devil's Den, the sporting centrepiece is a capstone to the decades-long push for a team, but the mega project could come at a cost to football elsewhere.
From the top down, Regatta Point is a game changer. A retractable roof, multi-level stands, a bar and restaurant precinct overlooking the River Derwent on reclaimed land, and the crowning glory, an endless screen above the fans.
We really wanted to energise and create a new waterfront precinct.
The $750 million stadium aims to invigorate Tasmania's AFL dream, with port access for ferries and a bus terminus underneath. Bars and restaurants will keep the area appealing, even outside of game day.
The fans can walk to the ground, the fans can have a meal before the game, after the game, and experience the entire precinct.
Tasmania will have its own team. To deny Tasmania this would now be chronically short-sighted and actually quite mean-spirited.
But the stadium, which honours the man who first brought AFL to the state, could end up being the big loser. Despite past promises of an even split of games between the north and south, there are concerns that the shiny new stadium could be too hard to resist.
And if you've got an AFL team or you've got AFL games here, obviously they want to play under the roof. I can understand that. So it's going to be pressure on to not have games up in the north.
Then there's the question of what games Launceston would get.
The promise was in the plan going forward that the major games would be up north.
The team would need to be based in the south, in the capital, but importantly we would play both games in the south and in the north of the state. And I've also announced today that we want to see the Dial Range Sports Centre near Penguin upgraded as well.
And whether Regatta Point will work for all football codes.
If this stadium can have rectangular configuration, if it delivers for football, then I think it could be a very good outcome.
Tasmania's cards are on the table. We'll soon know if this is a winning hand. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
Police have conducted a raid in St Leonards, swarming the Station Road address yesterday. Officers were seen searching through cars and a front room of the house. A 45-year-old St Leonards man was arrested and charged with drug and firearm offences. He's been bailed to appear in court at a later date. Peter Gutwein was in the opposition's direct firing line during the first parliamentary sitting of the year. The Premier spent much of question time defending his embattled former Sport Minister about her departure from the front bench.
A new parliamentary year has brought with it a new face on the government benches.
I hereby declare that I have read and do subscribe to the Code of Conduct for members of the House of Assembly.
But the government's agenda was quickly stifled as question time turned into a fiery game of political football.
Premier, when did you first become aware of persistent allegations Jane Hallett was having an affair with the CEO of the Jack Jumpers?
If that side of the House wants to start dealing in rumours, don't worry, I'll load up.
Premier, can you confirm that the day before Jane Hallett resigned, you met with her and a representative of or someone engaged by the Jack Jumpers in your office?
Miss Hallett had a support person with her. In terms of whether they were engaged by the Jack Jumpers or not, that was certainly not my understanding.
The cross-examinations continued well into the sitting day, the Greens probing the reason behind Jane Hallett's resignation from her role as Sport Minister.
The issue is whether there is a conflict of interest that affected a Minister of the Crown's capacity to do her job properly.
The state government has tried to deflect from its internal party woes by announcing a $1.5 billion 10-year affordable housing plan, but experts say that investment needs to happen immediately to meet current demand.
But until these homes are built, we still have over 4,500 Tasmanians languishing on the social housing waiting list without a home.
Under the plan, 10,000 new homes would be built by 2032 to help house the state's most vulnerable people. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's COVID case numbers have climbed to their highest level since mid-January. 957 new infections were recorded today, up more than 200 from yesterday. The number of people being treated in hospital with COVID has also increased to 13. 2 patients are in ICU. The Tasmanian farmers have been offered federal funding as part of a carbon and biodiversity pilot program. The World First scheme allows corporates to purchase carbon off farmers and help improve their biodiversity.
Every consumer is going to want to know that that food is carbon neutral, and this pilot allows all of us a chance to start that journey.
I've had conversations with my counterpart in the US who in fact wants to use much of the intellectual property that Australia has created here to mirror what we are doing in the United States, which means we're setting the rules for the world right here in Australia.
Applications for round 2 of the program close on March 3. Free motorcycle lessons are being offered to learned riders in Launceston's northern suburbs. 14 people will be able to cruise through the training program, available to young people who have faced barriers getting their licence. Instructor John Evans says good habits are crucial when riders first head out onto the open road.
For some young people, they've maybe been riding since they were that high. So for getting out on the road compared to in the paddock or the bush, it's a little bit different.
We want to see those enthusiastic young people that want to do that, who haven't got the means to come forward so that they can be part of this grant.
The program was established in Glenorchy in 2017. The Finnish shipbuilder behind the new Spirit of Tasmania vessels has celebrated the cutting the first piece of steel. The vessels will ferry passengers in 2023, with local businesses already gearing up for bumper tourist numbers.
A look at the future of Spirit of Tasmania vessels currently being built in Finland. Local businesses looking forward to their launch in 18 months' time.
It'll be really great to have more occupancy for our business. People that come on with RVs and caravans, they spend more time in regional areas and they stay longer as well.
Boasting a 40% capacity uptick and modern amenities to lure passengers on board.
Very hard to get on the Spirit. They have limited space and it does impact people when they can travel. If they cannot get on the boat, they obviously can't get to Tasmania.
A make or break for Tasmanian tourism, set to be rectified with the first steel plate cut and production beginning.
We are celebrating the start of production of the first vessel, new building number 6009.
Machines turning on for the first time, plans are now turning to how business can benefit. With more tourists to catch the Spirit to Tasmania, it's not just accommodation businesses that will benefit, but also ones in regional areas like pubs, cafes and gift shops. The new vessels will set sail in 2023.
Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmanian News.
The Premier has outlined his government's plans for a pathway to treaty. In his annual State of the State address, Peter Gutwein said he intends to hold a meeting with representatives of Aboriginal organisations in the near future, adding there must be Aboriginal leadership to move forward. The state's nursing and midwifery body has stood in solidarity with aged care workers today to highlight what they say is a lack of change 1 year on from a royal commission into the sector. Taking to Launceston streets, the rally took place outside Liberal MP Bridget Archer's office. The Nurses Union says it wants the Morrison government to take immediate action to address an industry in crisis. Feline owners across Tasmania now have to follow new guidelines with amendments to the Cat Management Act coming into effect. All cats over the age of 4 months will need to be microchipped and desexed.
We're seeing more and more female cats coming into the shelter that are already pregnant at 4 months of age. So I think it's really important to make sure people are educated that that is reality, that kittens are getting pregnant at a very young age. And so desexing is really important to stop that process.
There are also restrictions on the number of cats each household can have, and a permit will be needed to breed cats. A self-confessed Tasmanian aviation buff has won the chance to travel around the world for free. Ian Marchant was the lucky winner of a national frequent flyer competition, which has seen him secure $1 million points for spending.
He's no stranger to flying high in the sky. With 12,000 pilot hours under his belt, this Bonnet Hill grandfather is set to become a familiar passenger.
I've never done a flight into New Zealand, and I'd love to do the approach into Queenstown Airport. Apparently it's quite spectacular.
Ian Marchant was the prize pick of 400,000 people who entered Virgin Australia's national COVID vaccination competition, seeing him become a Velocity Points millionaire overnight.
And I nearly didn't click on the link because I thought it was a spam and I was about to throw it in the bin. But when I spoke to Rory, he said, yes, you are the winner.
It's opened the door to free travel for Ian and his wife Celeste. Up to 6 trips around the world now possible. A few destinations are already top of mind.
The granddaughters are wanting to go to a zoo, so I said, which zoo? London Zoo, Melbourne Zoo, Taronga Zoo.
Tasmanian cabin crew were delighted to hear someone so fond of their industry had secured the jackpot.
I think it's a great thing, and it's great to be able to be here today and provide him with this great opportunity.
We've had a chat with him this morning and some of his exciting adventures that he's done, so it couldn't have gone to a better, nicer person, and hope they enjoy travelling over the next couple of years.
While he may be familiar with the cockpit, Ian's happy to take the back seat for now.
I'm always hoping they might say there are any pilots sitting back there that can come and give us a hand, but I'd love that, but no. Yeah, I'm comfortable.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmanian News.
In local sport news, the Jack Jumpers have blown an early lead against the Perth Wildcats to go down 89-78. A sold-out MyState Bank Arena cheered the Jack Jumpers' flying start.
2-on-2 up ahead. Majet pulls up in transition. Bang!
But from there, it was the Bryce Cotton show as a league superstar put on a clinic. Despite the loss, you have to feel for Perth. They've spent 2 months on the road and only now are they finally able to head home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously excited. I just don't want to get emotional, so I was excited to see my kids and see my wife. And I've been in Tasmania for 9 weeks. I've been in Perth for 4. So I'm excited to get home, and it's even sweeter to get a win to send off with.
Last night's Teal game was in support of ovarian cancer. And that is tonight's sport. Here's Murph with the weather.
Well, tonight we have a very quick weather for you as we look at the forecast tops for our centres around the state today, as a few showers swept across Tasmania and concentrated to the east. The east to northeasterlies will continue tomorrow with a strong wind warning that's been issued between the far northwest around to the southeast, along with the southwest of the state. We have a moderate flood warning as well for the South Esk River and a flood watch for the northeast and upper east. And now, with the limited information we've been able to get, a quick look at the forecast around the state tomorrow, with partly cloudy weather for most of Tasmania, with the rain once again over the east coast, with a shower later over the north. And now, Kim, I can actually say that's all in the weather tonight, Kim.
Thank you very much, Murph, and that is all your news for now. Thanks for joining us this evening. Good night.